The purpose of this video is to convince the community at large to think twice about sync, and know that it isn't everything when it comes to gameplay making. I am earnestly expecting a riot in the comments in some way or another, because this video will likely be frowned upon and face profound public disagreement. However, note that the information I am about to mention reflects my own subjective viewpoint. Hence, this video is a display of my own opinion, so take it with a pinch of salt. However, I do have many things I want to say on why synced levels do not necessarily make fun gameplay, so that you can understand why this is my opinion. First things first, I do want to inform you viewers that I am a layout creator and have been building since 2018. Some of my publicly or personally loved layouts are Revenge, the Trilogy, Moscow Layout, Trilogy 2 and NGU OYD Layout. So as such, I could give you the perception that I have some credibility with my words. So let's get started. I remember there was a moment in time where certain videos were recommended to me on YouTube. These videos have a similarity to them in that they involve layouts that were made in a similar fashion, an extreme focus on absolute 100% sync. Here is one example. Video by Xvoid called Somewhere in Nevada was a big hit and got a total of 155,000 views. Take a look. Here is another by rzeri_ called Hit Hurtle by Overture, and I have no idea if this is how you pronounce the title, but okay, whatever. And this also contains an extreme focus on absolute 100% sync. So take a look into it as well if you haven't already grasped what I am talking about. Aside from YouTube recommendations showing a series of layouts, there are also decorated and publicly well-known levels in the Geometry Dash community with a profound emphasis on syncing every click to this music too. Some examples include Untitled by Convi and more, LMAO by Mazadi and more, and Kuzureta by Tenno and more. If you don't know what these levels look like, take a look at them. In many cases, and on a side note, this kind of gameplay creating style also contains unbelievable amounts of game mode switches every second. To illustrate, imagine that in 1 second there is a cube section, and all of a sudden there is a robot section the next half a second. You can find more examples in more layouts similar to the ones I've shown to you guys, like Wasireda by Crazen and more. The responses from the Geometry Dash community on the gameplay style are also mostly extremely positive in nature. From how the GD community reacted to such a gameplay style, I then reached the realization that my viewpoint is a minority, and many problems I noticed in the sync gameplay style are overlooked. Hence, it prompted me to make this video to voice out my concerns. I will now discuss my concerns pertaining to synced levels and target those with such actual concerns. My first concern pertaining to the synced levels is that many of such levels switch game modes haphazardly. And when I mean haphazardly, I mean in an extreme manner. It would seem as though creators of this gameplay style do not care when it is ever appropriate to switch game modes. Instead, it would rather seem like creators only care for the sync, hence making the gameplay less enjoyable to play because its inappropriateness can be off-putting. An epitome of this problem is seen in a level by Oasis called Polyatomic. The level showcases many game mode switches, like right from the start of the drop, game mode switched from cube to UFO to dual UFO to cube to spider to UFO to robot, and so on and so forth. Take a watch at the level for a few seconds. Now, having experienced the level, I can tell you the experience was absolutely horrible due to the game mode switching. There are a whole lot of examples in the level, and I am just going to give two examples just in case one is insufficient. For one, I am very curious as to why Oasis decided to change the game mode from normal UFO to dual UFO, and back to normal UFO at 17 to 19% of the level. Just why? What part of the song decided that it was appropriate to switch from normal UFO to dual UFO when the song does not signal any need for it? The melody is the same, the intensity is the same, and whatnot. So, what is the rationale for changing the game mode? Literally right after this, I am also very curious as to why Oasis decided to change the game mode from normal UFO to Cube to Spider at 19 to 20% of the level. Again, my questions are the same. What exactly is the part of the song that gives you the rationale to change the game mode? Did the melody change? No. Did the intensity change? No. So what is the reason? Oasis, if you are watching this video, do comment down the reason why, because I'm keen to know what prompted you to switch game modes. Anyhow, due to the haphazard switching of game modes, it could ruin how the icon moves when the music doesn't demand it, which then makes the synced gameplay less fun to play. In a similar case, a notable level called Void Wave contains a whole lot of game mode changes that are similar to how Polyatomic's game mode switching style works, and can be off-putting due to the same reasons. So hopefully, now you guys have an idea of what I mean when game modes switch haphazardly. This is one element of how you can have synced but off-putting gameplay. My second concern justifying how synced levels can make unenjoyable gameplay is that many of such levels feel extremely stale when you only focus on sync and neglect other gameplay elements. In my viewpoint, this is a serious problem. Polyatomic and Void Wave actually have this issue at a prominent level, but I am going to use Kuzureta as an example here. Right at the beginning of Kuzureta and the pre-drop, you can see how sync is established. However, it feels stale to play because there is no elegance or so-called fun factor in the gameplay. Here are two reasons why I feel there is no fun factor. Number 1, unfun icon movement. And number 2, unusual or unanticipated change of clicking styles. For example, in Void Wave, there were some instances where the cube moves as though it only responds to sync, and neglects the two gameplay elements such as number 1, the first jump to a blue orb to a dash up at 9%, and number 2, brace yourself for this one, the dash orb that comes before the two black orbs into a yellow gravity portal and green orb to a blue orb to a platform, then a dash orb and a drop into a platform to click a blue orb from 9 to 10%. Let me show you the parts I am talking about so that you know where I am referring to. These examples show an overemphasis on click sync due to the side effects like the inappropriate icon movements produced and unexpected places where you have to click, hence making the gameplay less fun. Here is another example. At 10% of Void Wave at a one-time speed portal, rather than have the mini cube drop down onto the next platform, I would rather have it jump on the platform, because the soundtrack makes it deem appropriate. You can hear the jumpiness at that moment. The unanticipated change of clicking styles is also inclusive of unexpected game mode switches, which was mentioned earlier in my first point, because switching game modes changes the clicks and movements you are required to make, like making micro clicks or lengthy clicks. There are also many instances where these two gameplay elements are terribly executed in Polyatomic. I feel it is difficult to truly explain why the synced levels in Void Wave, Kuzureta, Polyatomic and similar levels feel stale even with the two reasons I mentioned earlier. Anyhow, it is simply the result of inappropriate icon movements and sudden changes in clicking style that just doesn't scream fun to me. As such, to have fun gameplay, you will also need to focus on improving how icons move and having a consistent clicking style alongside sync. My third problem with synced levels is that you can make the gameplay sync, but also not. So allow me to explain what I mean by this point. Imagine if you place blue pads in place of jumping from a platform. You are actually not syncing the level together with your clicks. As such, anytime you are clicking to the music, then suddenly some random blue pad interferes with your click sync, would you be annoyed? Would you question why a random blue pad appeared out of nowhere since you were enjoying yourself clicking to the music? Because I would. Don't get me wrong, all these pads help in reducing gameplay difficulty, but to use them in such a manner that ultimately creates this pseudo-sync, which is what I would like to call it, is just off-putting and can make the gameplay unfun. I am absolutely sorry Oasis, I've been bashing at your level all this while, but I would like to state this. This third problem I stated is literally seen at many places in your level polyatomic. Here are some illustrations. I could propose using pads as filler sections that occur in between of melodies, such as using the pads as part of a semi-quaver or quaver rhythmic pattern, to retain the click sync and fun of the gameplay. However, this is only my suggestion, which is on the basis of my own preferences, so take it with a pinch of salt. Onto the non-mainstream ways of syncing levels. There are some ways you can have sync, but terrible gameplay. One way the gameplay can be terrible is creating blind gameplay, which includes blind jumps, timings, and transitions. Here is an illustration. In the video, it is seen that there is a series of blind AWP clicks and one blind AWP jump. And I'm pretty sure no one would like this kind of gameplay because it's very unplayable and very infuriating to witness playing something that you cannot see. Another way the gameplay can be terrible is using the floor or the ceiling to create gameplay with. This is seen in Abyss of Darkness's beginning spider section. Reason why these things can make sync levels terrible is because the gameplay becomes less playable and hence less fun. So the reason why when it comes to using the floor or the ceiling makes the gameplay less playable is because there is such a huge gap between the ceiling and the floor that if you were to move down to up or from up to down, it feels as though you can't really look at the gameplay. You know, so it's very difficult to also sight read because you have to go up and go down and go up and go down in a very extreme manner. In summary, sync levels can be terrible if they are not executed correctly. Sync is not everything because other gameplay elements also matter, such as number 1, knowing when it is appropriate to switch game modes. Number 2, knowing how to create appropriate icon movements, and number 3, knowing how to make click patterns so-called expected. A few other miscellaneous elements include avoiding making blind gameplay and too much of the floor or ceiling. It looks satisfying watching sync levels, but one thing is for sure, you cannot be deceived by it, because synced levels may not mean playable or fun levels, with reasons I mentioned earlier. As an add-on, I would like to say that there is a likelihood the problems I mentioned earlier are my personal issues, while others don't find them an issue because I've heard people love the gameplay of Void Wave, Kuzureta, Polyatomic, and so on. But if you are one of those people, do leave a comment and tell us why you love these levels, because I'm curious to know. From here on, out of the video, I'll be discussing about my 100% completely sure personal preferences in gameplay, just like how you guys have your own preferences too. These preferences of mine are simply what I like and does not truly apply to universally good gameplay. For one, I find that gameplay can be a heckload more fun if I mix in sync with the own rhythm gameplay style. If you don't know what this own rhythm gameplay style is, I suggest you can watch the video on what gameplay style are you. The link of the video is in the description down below. Anyhow, I like to create my own style of rhythms so that the gameplay can be more fun. But since each of us have different preferences when it comes to rhythms, this point is parked into the personal preferences section. For 2, when it comes to the gameplay styles in levels like Kuzureta, I would prefer if no ship, robot or wave sections are to be used to create a consistent clicking style, so that there will be no random micro clicks or lengthy clicks. However, this preference can be subjective, as some would find this no problem or not even an issue at all, but random game mode switches will still stand as a more universal issue in mainstream synced levels. And finally, this video is done. This is the longest one I've made so far, and goddamn, my throat is so sore from all of the speaking and all of the retakes. Oh my goodness. But anyways, I'm super proud of it, and because I've put a lot of thought into what to say and organizing my words. So if you have made it this far, I hope you enjoyed the discussion video and maybe you also managed to take away the purpose of the video, that sync is not everything when it comes to making good gameplay. Or maybe you want to backlash at my points. Either way is fine to me, as long as, well, perhaps you can give me your reason as to why you want to backlash at my points or maybe support my points. So it's time to say, peace out my viewers.